Greetings, Poe fans. Welcome to another edition of Poe Unplugged. I am Carmen Bolden.
And I am Jeanie Smith, and we are
The Poetastic Two.
Come zoom with us into the Unbook Club dedicated to the works of Mr. Edgar Allan Poe.
Good evening and welcome back to Poe Unplugged. Jeanie, what are we going to be reading tonight? Or discussing, I should say. We've already read it.
Well, we're going to be raising the spirits of the dead. Talking about the spirits of the dead. Because it's Poetry Month, of course, the month of April.
Of course.
It's a Wonderful World. And one of my favorites of Poe's is Spirits of the Dead. Now, most of us, I know, this one would probably fit in with the month of October because of Halloween and November with All Saints Day and all that. But I think Spirits of the Dead can be talked about at any time because it's one of those that I love because Poe, I know he wasn't big on transcendentalism, but he did love to talk about existential, about the life outside the body, life of the soul, life of the spirit. And I think this one, every time you read it, you're getting a little bit more intuition into, I guess, your own view on the spirits and how you see them. So who wants to take it before I go off on a tangent of, religion? But
just by way of background, I'm wondering, I should have looked this up, but in my compendium, they have tales, they have poems, and they have poems written in youth. Mm-hmm. And so Spirits of the Dead comes in as poems written in youth.
Yes.
Does anyone know when he wrote this?
1827. He was 18.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was going to ask how old he was.
Yeah, and he first published it in his collection of Tamerlane and Other Poems. His first one, pretty much. Yeah.
Just out of the gate, doing anything at age 18, let alone publishing a poem that we're reading, well over 150 years later, that's just pretty impressive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I guess when you think about it, next year is the 200th anniversary for this poem. Mm-hmm. That's crazy to think about.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it was originally called Spirits of the Dead, I think, wasn't it? Visit of the Dead. It was
right.
Called.
Mm-hmm. That's what I was about to say.
Yeah,
mm-hmm.
Sorry.
So why was it changed?
I'm not sure.
Poe
changed it, or
I'm sure Poe did. He was pretty famous for re-editing things over and over.
He tinkered over and over.
There's a lot of different titles for some of his works. Let's see, the poem.
So in other words, if we looked at the original book, it could be different in the original.
Very possible. It could be a little bit different edition if there was an edition out there of Tamerlane and Other Poems. I'm sure like Poe Museum probably has a copy of that.
Yeah, I'm sure they do.
Some of his other poems, like The Sleeper, was originally titled Irene. There's several of them. He kind of changed the name for whatever reason.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Well, and also if you think about it, like Carmen said, this was published in his books of Tamerlane and Other Works when he went back to Boston after he had. Okay, let me see. It was after he got out of the army, right? Or was it after West Point? It was one of the two.
West Point was 1830. So he would have, between this time and 1830, he would have been at University of Virginia and then the Army. Yeah. So this was when he went back to Boston, the place that he despised, and he published Tamerlane. But then if you think about it, with his experiences after that, it would make sense that he would change the name. Mm-hmm. Because, he may even edited some of the words and the wording
But unless we have like the original work of Tamerlane and other, works, the original that was published, we can't really say one way or the other. So, but I also think it might have changed because Poe changed. I mean, we've discussed this many times on Poe Unplugged, how him, about ourselves, when we read things of his works at different stages in our life, they mean different things. So I think it would make sense that it would change that.
Yeah.
It does make sense when you consider how you were as a person when you were 18 and how you were when you were a lot older. You know what I mean?
And I think, Jeanie, you made a good point about the words. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think he literally says spirits of the dead in there.
I think so.
Well, so a quick check with ChatGPT tells us that the original 1827 version was Visit of the Dead, and words had changed over time. Wish was later changed to mist, and fervor apparently had changed as well. So he was, I mean, I think like Gary is saying, part of it is he gets older and he thinks of things differently, but I think it's also like almost a sculptor or a painter that, you work on something and then you look at it, say, I just want to modify this one little part. I think you're just always perfecting. And
maybe there's a better word now than what I used before.
Yeah.
Right.
Makes sense.
What was your word before, Gary?
No, I just said he just chose to just change certain things and change a word here or there.
Yeah.
Because he's older.
And I think different artists approach these things differently. But as Carmen said earlier, I think Poe was known for this constant tinkering, as his works, are initially published in like in a so-called women's magazine or whatever, and it would be later published in some different form. And each time he had an opportunity to republish it, he'd go through it and make changes.
Right. Well, and considering that he did some of his publishing in a magazine like that, and then later on going to put it in a book form, that's a chance to make it a little bit better. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and his outlook on the actual written word may have changed.
Right.
Because he may have experienced more of death. And because that's the one thing when I was rereading it, every time I've read it, I've experienced something different. And one of the things I noticed about this time was when I was reading it, and he was talking about looking at the stars and seeing the stars. And then I was like, I remember like after my mom died and then my dad died, and one of the things is that there's always the things to look to the stars, and as long as the stars are burning, they're there watching over you, kind of thing. But then there is a part in the poem. Let me see. Let me bring it up so I can.
I think it's the second stanza you may be referring to.
Well, there's one part. Let's see. That when I read it, it was like, oh, I can see that again. And and it says, the night the clear shall frown, and the stars shall look not down from their high thrones in the heaven, with light like hope to mortals given, but the red orbs without beam to thy weariness shall seem as a burning and a fever which would cling to thee forever, but 'twill leave thee as each star with a dewdrop flies afar. And I was like, okay, well, think about it then. The person that's died, the actual spirit, they're no longer there. They're not looking at the star to see and think about the person that's gone and all that. They're now looking at it from, well, the stars are going to disappear. Like the dewdrops in the morning when the sun comes up and it fades away. So am I going to fade away? That's what I got out of it. the spirit's like, am I going to fade away now? Because I'm not looking at the stars. I am part of the stars, but where am I supposed to go now? The hope keeping me alive was me thinking that there was something after, life. It's kind of what I got. Sorry, Holly, go ahead.
Yeah, so okay, guys, so on my phone, if I start breaking up, just let me know and I'll just stop speaking. But yeah, do you know what's funny, Jeanie? This time around, that particular part about the stars like really hit home for me. But yeah, I kind of took it as like transitional, right? Like when we're alive, we look to the stars for hope, maybe even make a wish on a star. But to me, I kind of read it like, well, now those things that we had hopes for and thought of as being important while we were alive are no longer the same things we're going to hold dear now that we're dead. So I kind of took it almost like a transitioning. Like he kind of briefly talks about that before, like you're going to be scared, but when you wake up, you're going to have all these like people that you had known around you. So I think it's just kind of like how things that were once scary are now not scary and vice versa. Just like just a change because you're going, you're entering a different world.
Yeah. I kind of talking about this particular stanza, I wrote notes down when I was reading. I basically said the night and the stars are not going to necessarily comfort you, and the weariness or the woe that you have that you feel like is going to hang on like a fever is eventually going to leave, because a fever does leave you eventually. Like it's like a sickness, and then as time goes on, the fever breaks.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's kind of what I got out of it, that second stanza. But that one stood out to me probably more than I've read before. I think I've always focused on that first stanza more than any of the others.
Well, you know what I noticed? I have a book that has all of his stories and poems in it, and I don't remember when it was published or when it came out.
Mm-hmm.
But I decided to print this off on a piece of paper so I could write notes on it. It was just easier to deal with than having to have the book. So the thing that I printed off the internet, and I didn't look at, there were probably several choices. It says, source says the complete poems of stories of Edgar Allan Poe, 1946. So I'm assuming that my book is a lot newer than 1946. And I noticed that the way the stanzas are arranged are different.
Mm.
Oh, interesting.
So isn't that kind of weird? I don't know. I don't
It
know
could be
what
a
the
different version than what, like I read it off the Poe Museum's website for tonight.
So in other words, I guess what we're saying is that if you have something that was printed at a certain time, it might be a little bit different than what's printed newer, Maybe they do that quite a bit, and I don't know, or and the other thing I wanted to ask, since I'm talking, is, I know there's a lot of material here. So I don't know if you could pull this out of your whatever, but this is one of the first things that I've read that mentions God with him. I don't really remember hearing about God through him very often.
That's a good call, Gary. That's a good one.
Huh?
Yeah.
That's a good call, because I think that's a great observation, because I think you're right. I mean,
that's the first time that I ever remember reading him mention anything about God at all.
Yeah.
And he says, the breeze, the breath of God is still, and the mist upon the hill, shadowy, shadowy, yet unbroken, is a symbol and a token, how it hangs upon the trees, a mystery of mysteries. And that's the last stanza. And it really hit me. It seemed like that later in his life, with all the things he went through, like with his wife getting sick and her dying, there wasn't a lot of mention about God. And it almost felt like to me that maybe he hated God because God threw all this stuff on him. And like I said, I just don't remember ever reading him talking or mentioning God at all, unless somebody else can come up with something that they remember. I mean, I don't know. That might be something interesting to Google.
I did some research about that when I was writing my kid's book about Poe, and it said that as life went on, he did get more religious, I guess. I don't know if that's the right word, but more in belief of God. And in fact, I guess supposedly, I don't know if it's a legend or not, but his last words were, God, something like, save my poor soul, or something like that.
Yeah, I think I remember that now that you mention it.
Yeah, those were supposedly his last words where he died.
Yeah.
Somebody heard him say
But
that.
according to whom?
Well,
Yeah.
The same person who lost his death certificate.
Yeah. He will, in many of his works, he will have biblical allusions, but he won't necessarily mention God. So Gary, yes, that's a very
Yeah,
good
I remember
thing
the
that you pulled out.
biblical allusions. I remember
Yeah.
that, but I just don't remember him actually using the word God before.
Yeah.
Mhm. For the
Well,
Lord God Montresor,
Yes.
but that,
Okay,
of course,
smart
is used in
ass.
a completely different way and used in
Absolutely.
dialogue.
well, in the Imp of the Perverse, it has a quote of "We cannot comprehend God and his visible works. How then in his inconceivable thoughts that call the works into being?"
Mhm. Yeah, I've seen that lately, recently.
Yeah.
Okay.
Interesting.
And then he
Okay.
talks about the Blessed Mother of the Mother of God and those kinds of things. So I think he's very, what's the word?
Selective when he
Yeah,
uses it.
he's selective when he actually
It's
calls out or gives the moniker of
Mhm.
God
okay, then I
versus
guess I could say that I don't remember hearing it that often, but like this
yeah.
is the first time that I realized, the situation or thought about it, I guess.
It'd be kind of fun to compare Poe to other like early Gothic romantic poets or storytellers, story writers, to see how much they mention any kind of religion or God, or if they stayed more with the spiritual aspect of it, like he's doing here.
Yeah,
Well, if
that's
you
As
want
in
to read a
spirit,
lot
spiritual.
about God and references, Christina Rossetti
Yeah,
everywhere.
yeah. Sing those sad songs for me. Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I just looked up just to see if I could find any articles, and I have not read this, but from the eapoe.org site,
Mhm.
there is an article called Edgar Allan Poe and Religion,
Oh,
and
cool.
I just shared it with everybody
Mhm.
on the chat. So if you want to grab that,
Yeah.
Okay.
So I guess I would
So it's
also.
Edgar Allan Poe and religion, you said.
Mhm.
yes.
Sorry, Steve.
Oh, no, no problem. I just want to piggyback on Cheryl's comment that I do think there is something about in the 19th century, much more than today, that religion and particularly Christianity in the uh, Anglo American world was just kind of cultural more than religious.
Mm.
And so I think you expect a lot more references. All
Mhm.
that said, in 1835, according to my book here, Poe wrote a book called wrote a poem called A Catholic Hymn,
Mm-hmm.
which is a hymn to St. Mary. So
Mm.
he at least dabbled in
The Catholic hymn.
Catholic imagery. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I'll have to see if that's
Well,
in my book.
Yeah.
here's the thing.
It's on the Poe Museum website if it's not in your book, Gary.
Okay.
If we look at this from a historical standpoint, in those early years between that time period, you have the Second Great Awakening happening, which
Right.
is bringing it back where you're going more away from the vengeful God and into the more forgiving God.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have more of the traveling revivals.
Mm-hmm.
So Christianity is moving around, but you also have to understand Maryland, which doesn't surprise me. He brought in the Catholic hymn, even though he may not be, excuse you, sorry, cat interrupt us. Sorry. Which move? Okay. Anyway, as I
So I
was
had to lock
saying,
my cat out. She's locked out.
right, oh, I can't lock her out. You'll hear her worse than that. But anyway, as I was saying, Maryland was founded as a Catholic colony because of
Yes.
Lord Baltimore.
Yes. Yes, yes,
So
yes.
it was all Catholics. So even though Poe may not have been a Catholic per se, but that was the main vestige of that area. So in Christianity itself,
Mm-hmm.
the main the Protestant religion was becoming more prominent. That's when they were starting to break off. And you were getting the Methodists, and you were getting the Baptists, and you were getting all these little umbrella branches. So I think, and we've talked about this before, that he had more of a spiritual outlook rather than a generalized organized religion outlook. But because of the time period and his growth from young age to then, he would have to throw in the Catholic and the religion of God and all that in there, in my opinion. So, and that's why I like this poem, because he talks about the spirits of the dead.
I'm reading this article that you put up, Carmen, and it says here that in 1814, John Allen purchased pew number 80 for $340, and Francis and his foster mother Frances and Edgar regularly attended service at the Monumental Episcopal Church.
Yes.
Yeah. And his foster father was raised as a Scotch Presbyterian. You get a lot of different religions in here. Yeah.
So the Episcopal Church in America was essentially the Anglican Church, which is about as close as you can get to Catholicism while still being Protestant.
Right.
Very true.
And I don't know why I knew that, but I think I've read about it somewhere before.
Yeah, the Episcopals came out of the Catholic Church, and the Methodists came out of the Episcopal Church, and the Nazarenes came out of the Methodist Church.
Wow.
And the Lutherans came out of the Catholic Church because of Martin Luther, because he was a priest originally.
So yeah, they kept branching off, but keeping some of the same ideals. It's like I went to a Methodist Sunday service when I was traveling across the state in Vega, Texas, of all places. And
Vega, Texas.
Yeah, Vega, Texas. VEGA. It was up near the Panhandle.
Just like the car.
Yep, just like the car. And it was so much like a Catholic type of thing, because they had communion, when you had the end of the service with the blood of the wine and then the cracker and those kinds of things. And I'm like,
Yeah,
that thing. Thank you. Hey, I wasn't raised in Catholics. Okay. I was raised old school Southern Baptist. All right. We're talking, I went to the different ones I never went, but we did have the snake handlers in my neck of the woods. So
really? Wow.
Yeah. So I had an introduction. Trust me. It took me moving to Atlanta, Georgia before I ever got baptized. That should tell you something. I'm just not that it was bad or anything like that. It's just that religion was one of those things that in my neck of the woods, if you weren't religious, you were in a world of hurt.
Well, Steve, you were saying something about that earlier, about the culture of religion or spirituality or whatever early on. And in this article too, it mentions something about that Christianity, the dominant role of Christianity in the United States in the 19th century, that was going on before the Darwin theory of evolution and the horrors of the Civil War kind of hit. And everybody started doing a lot more questioning about God and their place in the world and all that, and the afterworld or whatever, afterlife. But it also says here that when Poe went to school at Bransby Manor House School, later on, that's where he went. There were mandatory morning and evening services every Sunday.
Oh, yeah, I think that was common at school. There'd be chapel or whatever.
Yeah.
That's kind of part of my point is I'm not saying, I don't think people are necessarily embracing it as religion as much as it was just part of the culture.
It was part of the culture.
Yeah, that's why I always refer to it as organized religion versus actual religion. Because the religion itself is a spiritual outlook and belief. Organized religion is more of where, like Steve is referring to and like Cheryl said,
going to
If you
services
go,
and
if you go to a
tithing and all that
Catholic
kind of stuff.
school, you have to go to
Right.
a Catholic school. You have to go to mass and those types of things because they are required for it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's all
That's
Yeah, like my nephews went to a Catholic school because one of them played football for the school, and of course, sports is really important to the Catholics. Did I say that out loud? Anyway, and they had to go to
I didn't hear
mass.
anything.
They had to go to mass, and then one of them decided to become a Catholic, and my brother and wife was upset by that, and I'm like, "Why are you surprised?" You know, they had to go to mass every day,
Yeah.
Yeah.
whether they were Catholic or not. It was required.
Well, one of the ways Poe got out of West Point, got kicked out of West Point, it says here, is because he refused to attend classes or church services anymore.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, I think he did everything he could to get
Yeah.
kicked out.
Which implies that he was going before that, at
Right.
least to
Exactly.
both, including
Exactly.
church services. Yeah.
Well, and he
Yeah.
was probably doing it to appease his foster mother,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
you know, as a way to be closer to her, not,
Yeah.
you know, and
Or
because of
his
some of the
foster
things,
father who wasn't very nice to him.
Right.
yeah. And in most of the stuff that he writes, you can tell that, and well, in my opinion, there's a love-hate relationship that he has with religion and with God. So then he does have some belief because at 18 years old, he wrote The Spirits of the Dead. And to me, when I read it and I look at it and I'm thinking, yeah, he has that knowledge of a life after death mentality. But it's like I was reading that and I was telling you the way I felt is that he was, you know, he says that there's all these people, he's not alone, all these other spirits that were waiting for him. But it's like I got the feeling that he wasn't happy about, you know, the poem itself was like it was missing something. Like when he was writing about the spirit, when it came out and was saying that, you know, I'm surrounded by all these and I'm looking at the stars, but they're going to disappear and it's not going to be the way it was with hope when I was alive. So it was kind of like, what happens now? That's what kind of what I got from it. It's like the
Yeah.
spirit was like, okay, I'm here. What happens now?
Well, and
that inversion of nature, where nature is not comforting, was a hallmark of the Gothic Romanticism.
Mhm.
yeah,
And
that's
so
true.
Poe that was right when he was coming along there, when he wrote this. So that he's not the only one who presented nature that way by any means.
Yeah.
No.
One other
It
thing that
it kind of felt like to me that this had a lot different tone than many of his other poems and stories.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I mean,
And it would
in a
fit
way, I
with
was
his
when I
age.
was reading, I was thinking I was kind of surprised because I had never read this particular selection before. Didn't even remember hearing about it, and certainly don't remember ever hearing about it when we were taking, you know, classes in school, either in high school or college. And I'm like, this sort of just has just sort of a different tone entirely of what I would expect Poe to write about. That was just me, I guess.
Yeah. One other thing that I kind of took out of there was two things I'm going to talk about. The first thing was that I felt like, especially from that first stanza, rereading it this afternoon, was in your most solitude moments, you're never alone. Those spirits are going to be walking with you forever. And kind of like the very first part, thy soul shall find itself alone mid dark thoughts of the gray tombstone. And I've always kind of thought about, he was standing in a cemetery or a graveyard, and the spirits were all around him by that gray tombstone. And so it's like that's, the veil between life and death, one of his quotes, yet shadowy and vague. It's like that's the best place to be around those spirits. But the one thing I wanted to bring up was in the last stanza, at the very end, after he talks about the breath of God, and it's that just the last five lines, and the mist upon the hill, shadowy, shadowy yet unbroken, is a symbol and a token, how it hangs upon the trees, a mystery of mysteries. And so I wanted to hear what you guys think what he means by the mystery of mysteries, because my interpretation of that is, what is he pondering? What is life like after death? Is that the mystery of mysteries? What
That's
he's
what I thought.
referring to?
Yeah, I thought the same thing, Carmen.
Okay.
Well, that language, mystery and mysteries, is from the Bible.
Yes, exactly. I can't remember
So
where it's from, but
I
I
can't remember
remember.
either, but
Yeah.
like for me, I'm Catholic, and our priest often talks about how, especially around like the holy, the Trinity, and you've got the three parts, the God, Christ, and the Holy Spirit kind of thing, the
Yeah.
Holy Trinity, and we can't really understand that. We just have to go with faith on that, and they often refer to that as the mystery of mysteries.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm sure other religions, I don't know if they use that particular aspect of it to define that, but in this poem, he doesn't really tell you what that is. I don't think he doesn't clarify it. But it is biblical.
Yeah, he
I
definitely
think it's
leaves it very
interesting.
open, and that's why I wanted to bring it up,
Yeah.
because he kind of references it back to the mist upon the hill, and the
Mhm.
shadowy, unbroken, and it's a symbol and a token. So
Mhm.
I just thought that was just the way what he worded that as was very interesting. And then what's funny is I looked up just mystery of mysteries, and the most things that come up on an entire page before you have to click on Google is, of course, Mark Dawidziak's book, A Mystery of Mysteries, The Death and Life of Edgar Allan Poe.
Mhm.
And so, because he would have taken that from Spirits of the Dead.
Wow.
So, so Carmen, can you read again where it says the breath of God will be
Yeah.
still? And what's the next line? Because
And
Okay.
the
mine's
mist
different.
upon the hill.
The
The
mist
next line
upon
is, and the mist upon the hill,
and then what? Stop.
shadowy, shadowy, yet
Okay.
unbroken.
Okay. What mine says is, instead of shadowy, shadowy, it says by that summer breeze unbroken.
Oh.
Oh, interesting.
And I got that. This is from the Edgar Allan Poe Society of Baltimore,
Hmm.
eapoe.org, which I think is the same one. Yeah, the same one that this article's from.
Okay.
So that's
That's the
probably
one.
another change he made
At some point.
at some
Yeah.
point.
I
Yeah.
think that might actually be from the publication of the Tamerlane and the other poems, though,
The one I'm
because I was looking at eapoe.org
uh-huh.
and they put a lot of his earlier works
Yeah.
and stuff on there.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So I think that might be maybe one of the first versions.
hmm
I
Oh,
mean,
that's
because I was like,
interesting.
oh,
Yeah.
It's interesting because there's been other times that I've read authors and read a story and then come to find out that they rewrote the story in a different book, a different way, and it's kind of irritating sometimes.
Yeah. Like, which one did you mean? Yeah.
Yeah, like I don't remember reading that part. Where'd you get that?
Yeah.
Oh,
I thought I had it. Now you're changing it.
Yeah.
oh yeah. All right. Other thoughts? What other things did y'all think about?
Like I said, I thought this one was really, really different, and I kind of enjoyed it being different from so much of the other things that he's written,
Mm-hmm.
in my opinion.
Yeah.
I actually agree with Gary. I kind of thought too that it definitely has a different feel than his other poetry.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe a little less wordplay. I mean, there's definitely a style to it, maybe a little less stylistic, but I also enjoyed it. I mean, I think it's a beautiful poem. I really enjoyed it.
Hmm.
Yeah. I've always enjoyed this poem, and one thing that I noticed too was that Tamerlane and Other Poems was a lot of the poems in that particular publication, because Poe paid for that himself.
I remember.
He basically was pulling a whole lot from Lord Byron, like
Mm.
just influence, because that was Poe's,
Oh,
influencer, and that's who he really looked up to. And so his early work a lot of times reflects a lot of
uh-huh,
Lord Byron in it.
uh-huh.
well, and it fits with his
Interesting.
definition of Byronic hero.
Hmm.
The archetype of the melancholy of
Mm.
how things didn't turn out the way they wanted and he didn't get what he needed at the end. And I
Yeah.
kind of got that from the spirits of the dead because, like I said, to me it was like, okay, I see this. The mystery of mysteries is right there, but it's still a mystery. Is
Yeah.
what I got from it.
Mhm.
It's like what to do now.
Yeah.
I mean, I love the poem because
Mhm.
I love hanging out at cemeteries at night. I used to do it all the time when I was a kid. I'm just saying. I'm just um
Me too,
it was
Jeanie.
just one of those what? I can't help it. It's
Oh, I
just one
like it too.
My best friend lived right next door to a cemetery with no fence, and we used to hear a lot.
Ooh.
well, we actually had bodies that were buried on the hill behind my house that the
Oh,
tombstones
wow.
were so old that there was no writing on them anymore.
Mm.
Oh,
Mhm.
There was
wow.
no fenced in area, there was nothing. So, and my family had owned that land for generations, so we have no idea who was buried there. They were
Mhm.
just one broken tombstone and one that was just nothing written on it, just a gray piece of rock.
See, I think that was pretty common back a long time
Mm-hmm.
ago where people would bury family members on their property because they didn't have a lot of money to go
Yeah.
to the cemetery. One of the first farms that my dad bought, we found a stone that was written by hand with red paint, and we contacted someone from the state of Missouri, and they came and did some investigations and found out we had an Indian chief buried on our property.
Oh,
Oh,
wow.
oh
Isn't
my
that
gosh.
interesting?
That
Yeah.
is.
And my dad got a file with a bunch of information. And when I was going through my parents' stuff after my mother passed away, I could not find that. And I was bummed because I was really kind of hoping to reread that because I was 5 years old and I didn't remember a lot of the details. But yeah, they had somebody come from both the federal government and the state government and did some research and found out that we had an Indian chief on our property, buried right in front of our house.
Mm.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing the things of the past, and I think that fits with where very well with spirits of the dead because it's like he's speaking of the past, the present, and the future,
Hmm.
in my opinion. So,
I think
and
he
at the
is.
very end, it's still the mystery, even
Right.
though you've passed on to the next portion
Right.
of, it's not the end, it's still a
Right.
mystery of what comes
Right.
forward. So,
Yeah.
Right.
but gotta love Poe.
Mhm.
Keep you guessing.
Yeah.
This one to me was really different, and I liked it very much
Hmm.
for sure.
Yeah, that's why we were thinking, with April is always poetry month. And
Mhm.
so we love to do a poem for this month, and we've never actually talked about this one on here, so it was a good one to choose.
This is my
Definitely.
first time to read it.
So
Nice.
cool.
Yeah.
Any other thoughts?
Mhm.
I was thinking that when this started, it was more like a kind of the external there. You have the external environment, the spirits are around, and then it shifts into more of an internal experience where suddenly it's all about what's going on in the mind of the deceased, you
Hmm.
know. And I just thought that was really deep for somebody who's like a teenager writing something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That just amazed me. This just really, to me, shows his genius.
I
His
agree with you,
genius.
Cheryl. And
Yeah.
because when you think about it, at 18, he had, he had lost his mother, his brother, his sister, even though she was in his life some, they didn't, live in the same house. They were,
Right.
distanced from each other.
Mhm.
Let's see, he had lost his father, which, he really never knew, but,
Mhm.
obviously he never, um, and then I think Frances Allen, I forget how old he was when she died. This was not very far off.
It
No, it
was while
wasn't.
he was at the University of Virginia, if I
Yeah,
remember.
Yeah.
I'm gonna
Let's
look
see if
it
I have
up.
it in here.
So he had been through a lot of loss and, with death. Um, so I can see where he pulled that, those those depth of feelings out of his grief for these people. But again, yes, at 18 he wrote something this with this much, emotion and all that. Let's see, she died February 28th, 1829. I knew it was very close to this time frame, so 2 years later. So
Have you all seen the 1968 movie Spirits of the Dead?
not yet, but it's on the list to
That's
watch.
that's our next, not next one, but the one after, I think.
Yes,
Okay,
the
good.
It's like
review,
2 movies
actually.
later.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know what's funny is I actually started watching that today, Dr. Jeff. I didn't finish it. I got to
good.
you know what? It was different little stories. So I got to
Yeah.
the William Wilson story. I was because I was like, wait, am I watching the right thing? Because I had a hard time finding it for free. And actually Amazon didn't even have it on Prime, so it was like a little hard to find, but I found it.
Oh,
But
wow.
yeah, it
Did
was definitely.
you find it on YouTube?
You know what? I had to Google it. I got it from. I hope I didn't get a virus. I Googled it and it came up like just watch for free. YouTube only had clips of the movie, and I didn't see where you could rent it at all. But
I think it's usually on Tubi. Tubi
Yeah.
usually has a lot of
I'll have
the
to
old
look on
ones.
Tubi. I've
Yeah.
got that on my TV.
And-
So who stars in it?
Jane Fonda,
Jeannie
Terrence
was in the
Stamp,
first
Peter
story.
Fonda.
Jane Fonda.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's,
Bridget Bardot.
Yes, it's an anthology of 3 of his stories directed by 3 different directors. Roger Vadim, who was married to Jane Fonda, Louis Malle, who was married to Candice Bergen, and Federico Fellini.
Oh, wow.
And the movie just uses that title, Spirits of the Dead, but the 3 stories are Metzgergenstein about the horse, and William Wilson about the doppelganger, and Never Bet the Devil Your Head, although that's a wild and loose adaptation of that story, but it's a very interesting movie, visually, and the people in it, and the directing styles, everything.
Oh yeah, the James Fonda one was like bizarre. Let me tell you, I was like glued to the screen, like this is so weird. It was good though. I mean, I enjoyed it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm excited to watch it. It's been on my watch list for forever, and just it's like something else will come along or I'll forget about it and then remember it. And so, but yeah, it's our next review morgue is Tomb of Lygia for
Oh,
May.
good. That's a great one.
And oh yeah, I love that one. And then
Spirits
after
of the
that,
Dead
I
is
believe
after that.
is Spirits of the Dead. So that'll be for June.
Yeah, Tomb of Lygia is so beautiful because, the Roger Corman uses those ruins,
Yes.
and then it was written by Robert Towne, who went on to write Chinatown.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So that particular movie is called Tombs of Lygia?
Yeah, Tomb of Lygia.
Yeah.
Oh, Tomb.
One of the
Okay.
Roger Corman, Vincent Price movies.
Yeah, it's his
Okay.
last
One of the best.
I've not
last
seen
one.
that one.
Wow.
Yeah, it's one of the best.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So nobody has any other thoughts about the poem. I mean, I think we've kind of talked it out.
Well, I mean, we can still go down the path of talking existential and, religion, but I don't think we need to go that route.
Yeah.
Is
Well,
it raining and thundering where you are?
Yes.
yes.
It's annoying.
It's actually not doing anything for the first time in like 4 days.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
Yeah, we've had tornado warnings and thunderstorm warnings, and I've had 2 trees drop branches. It's been fun.
Oh, well, I was going to remind everybody about our next Poe Unplugs coming up. So for May 26th, we're going to be watching Wednesday and talking about all the Poe connections we find.
Mm-hmm.
Are we just
Now,
doing
is that
season
just-
1
is
or
that just
season
for
1
the-
and 2?
Do y'all
Is
just want to
it-
do season 1? Because if we add both, it's a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Let's just do
Is it
season
just-
1,
Is it just for the 1 month or is it for 2?
just for May.
It's
Okay,
just
just
for
for
May.
May.
Probably.
May 26th.
Yes,
And
And
then
And
are
we're going to
we,
do just season 1.
correct.
Yes.
Okay.
are we meeting on June 30th?
Yes, June 30th. And we're going to be doing The Imp of the Perverse.
Oh, okay.
Imp
It's a
of
good
the
one.
Perverse.
And we haven't talked about that one before. And then if you guys have suggestions for July, we realized when we did the newsletter for April that we didn't have anything for June. So Jeannie and I were like, we haven't read The Imp of the Perverse, and that's a really good one to do.
Hmm. And you sent me a survey to tell
Yes.
some that I'd like for us to do.
Yes, I think you've answered it. I think Steve, you answered it. A few other people have too. Gary, I think you might have.
Keith.
Yeah, Keith did. Keith did. And so yeah, we're waiting to see, how many different ones we get, hoping for some people to say the same thing, and then we'll choose it. And so as we said, our cat producers will choose it.
So we don't have something chosen for July yet.
Correct. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And
I'm writing
then
this all down so I don't forget.
And Gary, before I forget too, I reached out to Lynn Cullen and she has not responded back. This has been a little bit ago, and I keep meaning to email you and I keep forgetting.
I will contact her on
Okay.
Facebook and ask her.
Okay.
It
Thank you.
could be she missed it because she's doing a lot of she's doing like different bookstores and she's doing book clubs and stuff, and she's pretty busy right now.
Oh,
So
I can understand. I can totally
I'll kind of
understand.
put a bug in her ear. I know she's excited about the idea for sure.
Okay, great. Yeah, no. And that's no problem at all. I just don't want to miss out on if she could join us because we can still
Okay,
read the
so
book.
remind me, what month is that?
She had told you August would be better for her.
Okay.
So
I'm glad you remembered that.
we'll plan
So,
on what is it the book is called again? Mrs. Poe.
Mrs. Poe.
Mrs. Poe,
Mrs.
Yeah.
Poe.
So
called
we'll plan
Mrs.
on
Poe.
that book for August. But yes, we do need a July topic or a Poe story or poem. So if you guys have ideas, let us know.
There's just so
And
many
I'm
things to pick.
I
Mhm. Hey, maybe we'll get some ideas from the Doomsday because there's a lot of
That's
things that's
true.
been picked that's not, you know, on our regular listening list.
That's true.
So, and I made a point. That's why I included everything that was
Yes.
on there for people to choose from,
Yeah,
so we could get a variety.
absolutely.
Hmm.
And it's kind of interesting. Some of the the usuals haven't been picked, so I was like, wow, okay.
Yeah. It is kind of neat when some of the more understated
You know,
ones.
you know. So I'm looking forward to that. So yeah,
Absolutely. Yes. So
Carmen and I haven't even chosen what we're doing yet.
oh no, we're waiting till the last. We're going to let everybody pick. But yes, so Doomsday is coming up, our 12-hour readathon on May 16th.
Mhm.
And that'll be live streamed. Some people are sending in videos. And then the poetry contest is still going through May 15th. And so any listeners and viewers out there, please submit your poems. We've
Yeah, if
gotten
you guys
several
can
so
hit it
far.
out with other people, we can to get get more people involved. That would be great.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So,
So
anybody have any other news or comments?
I will not be here next month. I will be, while you're on here, I will be actually in an airplane, probably flying over you, Carmen, and
Oh,
I'll
we'll
be on my
wait.
way to, I'm on my way to Virginia. I know I
oh,
will.
oh, great.
I'm on, my daughter lives in Alexandria, and it's my grandson's 5th birthday
Oh,
that
Oh,
weekend, the
fun.
end of May.
Hmm.
So I'm going there for the big event.
Oh,
So
that'll be great.
nice.
I
Well,
leave
we'll
on the
miss,
20th, the
we'll miss
morning of the
you.
26th. So
Yeah, we'll
yeah,
miss you.
Cool.
thank you.
Hmm.
I'll be thinking of
Have fun.
you
All
as I
Be
right.
fly
safe.
over.
Have safe travels.
Yes.
Thank you.
Well, I
Hey,
guess that's,
Carmen, can I ask you a quick
oh,
question?
yeah.
When you contacted Lynn, how did you contact her? Did you email her or message her on
Facebook
Facebook?
Messenger.
Okay, I'll write that down. It could be she just missed it.
Okay, yeah, and that's what I figured. No worries. No worries.
Okay, all right. I'll
We
see
still
what I can
got
find
plenty of
out
time.
because I know she's excited about this.
Okay, well, cool.
Yeah, she already told me she is.
All right.
So,
Well, I
okay.
guess if no one has anything else,
Nope.
I
I'm
thought
Poe'd
this
out.
was a good discussion tonight.
Yeah, it
Mm.
was. It really was.
Interesting.
All right. Well, we'll be anxious to hear about Wednesday next month. And
On Tuesday.
On Tuesday.
yes.
Yeah.
Like what day
Should
is
we
this?
change it to Wednesday?
Oh gosh.
No, I definitely forget it then. Okay.
Oh, I
Yeah,
know
no
it. I
kidding.
know it. All right. Well, I guess on that note, we
We are
are
Poe
out.
Out.
We're Poe'd out. Okay. Sorry.